What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Rockets Hits and Heartbreaks. Well, we're back for another week here. I took last week off because I kind of wanted to do something a little different. I was kind of planning on kind of doing something a little different. I kind of wanted to put it more to like the, I don't know if educational is the right word, but more of just of a informative video of here's how I like to do certain things. So a topic I wanted to go over today is, what do I look for when trying to find a single in the pick five sequence? So that's what we're going to cover today, kind of what I look for to single a horse, and hopefully it helps you guys, and hopefully kind of instead of me just going, well, here's what we hit and here's what we missed, well, here's how I or why I do some of the things I do. So I think that makes a little bit more sense. So finding a single, we're going to use the Bluegrass card at Keeneland on Saturday. That would have been April 6th. And then the Lexington card at Keeneland on April 13th. So the two biggest cards of the last 2 weekends, that's why I picked them, and kind of fresh in everybody's mind. And the bigger cards, I think you kind of remember, what you did a little bit more. So before I start, I'll just say this is what I do. Okay. And if you hate it, if you do something different, you disagree, well, go do what you do. Right. Like I'm not telling you this is the only way to do it. I'm not that way. I think there's a million ways to play this game. I don't, hate anybody's strategy. This is what I do. This is how I look at it. It's been successful for me, obviously. So, if you do something different, that's fine too. I'm not saying this is the only way or the way. I'm saying this is one way to do it that has been successful for me. All right, so let's get to it. So let's start. I'm going to just pull up Equibase first. Let's start. This is the Bluegrass card, April 6th at Keeneland. We're going to do the early pick five first, and we'll go to the late pick five. So the first thing that I do, and this is just something that, for me, I always think the sequence is easier if you can find a single. I don't think you absolutely have to single in every pick five sequence, but the first thing I do is look for, okay, who's a horse, and maybe it's one, maybe there's 2 or 3 races where I can single here and feel good about it. And then I'm going to build everything out around that single. So the first, the early pick five, April 6th is where we'll start. Let's start with that. And oddly enough, like the first thing I like to do is, what are the 5 races? Like, are they maidens? Are they claiming? Are there stakes involved? Because a lot of times I will not always, and that's I want to make clear of this. There's never an always in horse racing. You're always kind of, as I say that, it's a situation. The only always is you're always kind of having to be flexible, right? Because everything is different. Every sequence is different. So anyway, but I do tend to kind of go, okay, if there's a stakes race or 2 involved in a sequence, let's kind of look at that. Maybe, I kind of like to hook on to horses that are a little bit higher quality if possible. So you go through this when you start out with a maiden special weight, an allowance optional claiming, a maiden special weight in race 3, an allowance optional claiming race 4, and a maiden special weight in race 5. Honestly, I know like allowance is higher than a maiden, but there's really not a whole lot of things to be like, hey, all these races, the quality is going to be similar on the surface, at least. So nowhere to gravitate. Now, for example, if there was 2 maiden special weights, 2 allowance optional claimers, and a grade 1, I would immediately go to the grade 1 first, see if, hey, okay, can we build around this grade 1 horse, and then use kind of the, lesser quality or cheaper horses in the other 4 races. That's not the case here. So let's go now to the past performances and a couple things that I just kind of look at right off the bat. Let's just kind of look, okay, is there any kind of standout from a speed figure standpoint? Now, I don't necessarily, like, if one horse has, like, say, a 55 and another one has a 58, I don't care about that. Just to be completely honest, I'm looking for major standouts. And honestly, no matter what speed figure you use, people are going to hate me for this comment. They're all the same. They really, really, truly are all the same. Some speed figures are going to be right in some races and wrong in the others. And you just go right on down the list, whether they're buyers, whether they're time forms, whether it's Brisnet, the Ragazins, whatever. I get it. I'm not telling you you're dumb if you're using one over the other, because I use one over the other as well. But what I'm telling you is, at the end of the day, after years and years of every day doing this, some are going to be right and some are going to be wrong with every speed figure you do. So we're just using buyers because I have them saved on my computer. So we're just going to use them here. Again, it doesn't really matter. I know people are going to freak out over that comment. It's all marketing. That's really all it is. So anyway, let's go to this here. So you're kind of seeing it, and I'm just kind of, as I go through this, and again, this is just a first run through the sequence. I'm just glancing at these buyers, looking for one to be, way higher than the others. And so you're looking now, El Magnifico so far has one that might stand out, but now that as you go, Bourbon Society is similar. Elephant's Ear is similar. The 6 did scratch out of this race. Batten Down and Banned for Life. So boom, Banned for Life, 89. So there's one, Batten Down and Banned for Life. You look at these two, it's like, yeah, those stand out just a bit from everybody else. But that, don't just say, okay, well, yep, single. No, now you got to look at this. Okay, yeah, the popular thing in racing, a saying that's very popular in racing is the numbers don't lie. It's probably true. I mean, most of the numbers out there don't have a ton of opinion knocked into them. It's just kind of factors that they see, whether it be time or track variance or whatever, fractions, internal fractions, whatever. All of them have a lot of scientific stuff behind it, or maybe not scientific, but just hardcore facts behind it. So yeah, the numbers don't lie. But what I like to say is the numbers also don't tell the whole story. So, okay, you dive into it. It's like, okay, Batten Down, Banned for Life. They're kind of standouts. Well, okay, 89. But you go back up here. This race is 1.16 on the dirt. Okay, and it's a fast track. This was 6 furlongs on a sloppy surface. Sure, the horse earned a buyer that looks, or about any speed figure you looked at for this. Banned for Life was a little bit higher than the rest. But what does an 89 buyer going 6 furlongs at fairgrounds on a sloppy surface mean at 1.16 on fast dirt at Keeneland? If this is another 6 furlong race, I'm kind of willing to ignore the sloppy surface as a little bit more. It's a little bit of a worry, but it's not just a huge worry for me. But 6 furlongs to 1.16, that is a huge difference, right? So you have no idea. You look at this thing, okay, well, if he reproduces an 89 buyer, he's going to win. But the factors are completely different for this horse. And it's funny because we'll get to another race here in a second. We'll cover, but stretching them out, you look at, I go, okay, well, maybe the pedigree says stretching out's going to work. I mean, Maximus Mischief, maybe. Out of Scat Daddy Mare, that's okay. But I don't look at the pedigree then after I go, okay, I'm not sure. Let's see what the pedigree looks like. I don't look at that and go, oh, we're definitely going to stretch out. That's not a problem, right? So I just kind of looked at this like, okay, yeah, best horse, but stretching out, who knows? You've got this horse Batten Down. Honestly, there's nothing on the paper that's going to tell you Batten Down can't win this race. But as I text Jared as soon as we got done with our bankroll for this, and we were talking about it, I said, I'm not picking Batten Down. He's like, why? He's like, I don't know. He looks pretty good. I was like, yeah, this is a brother Tacitus. I'm not doing it. I went down Tacitus Road long enough. I don't need to play his brother, right? So again, it's like these two horses kind of stick out. This one's doing something new for the first time. Who knows? This one's a brother Tacitus. I'm not singling out of this race. So let's go to race 2. Sorry, that's just as much as I can do it. Race 2. I'll go a little bit quicker on this one. This is just a disaster of a mess of a race. So you got horses coming back from layoffs. You got this weird horse who did absolutely nothing. You got a bunch of horses that really haven't shown a ton. So you just kind of scroll down here, and I was like, that's a mess. So I'm going to skip here. Race 3, and race 3 is where I actually did single. I'll go ahead and just say it. It is a maiden special weight going 7. Low buyers here. A first-time starter here with not the connections I want to play for first-time starters. I'll put that out there. At Keeneland specifically. I was a little afraid of the 3, but Eddie Keneally, I like him in the second start. So maybe circle the 3 there for the second start. First start, not as much. Wesley Ward, second-time starter, a pretty low buyer. Another one, Bill Mott, more of a second-time starter for me. And then, boom, Discreet Mischief, 89. You've seen so what you've seen so far is like low buyers, okay? And then you've got first-time starters that's like, yeah, interested, not today, though. And then you keep on going. This horse has started, really hasn't shown much in 3 starts. Here's a first-time starter. Another trainer that I don't necessarily want to play first time out at Keeneland. Horse really hadn't shown anything. Another horse that really hadn't shown anything. And a couple more first-time starters I'm just not that interested in. So to me, okay, huge standout. Now, wouldn't you know it, Discreet Mischief comes out of the Banned for Life race. He finished ahead of him, the horse that we didn't single because he was changing up, doing something new. This horse, it's totally different. Same buyer, but he's going from 6 furlongs to 7 furlongs. Well, that's logical. And also, what I failed to mention in the last race, because I wanted to mention it here, both these horses, Discreet Mischief and Banned for Life, got beat by Drip. And Drip was a heavily touted horse coming into that debut race at Fairgrounds. I mean, heavily touted. We haven't seen him. Everybody's excited for him if he does come back. But so they ran fast. They ran behind a really good horse. And again, the difference was, let's say Discreet Mischief was in the mile and 16th race. Well, I'd be a little more concerned, probably wouldn't have singled. But single Discreet Mischief here, because look, it's an 89 buyer, or using time form buyer, whatever. He stands out amongst this group. So, okay, he's definitely going to beat the ones that have already started, in my eyes. So it's just like, okay, analyze the first-time starters. In this case, none of them look that great to me. He was an easy one to single in the sequence. So this was not a forced single. This was basically, we're going to do it. Race 4, another race where a lot of horses I really didn't trust. Some good ones, but horses I didn't trust. They all kind of looked the same to me. Prevalence ends up winning this race, and he's just all over the place. You never really know when he's going to fire at all. Then the 5th race in the sequence, or the last race here in the sequence, I made in special weight on the turf. I ended up going with a second-time starter for Chad Brown to win here, but I didn't feel like there was enough to single. He didn't have a big standout from a buyer perspective, or I use time for him mostly, and that he didn't really stand out. There's a couple others that are ahead of him here. You see, with 72s and 73s, but 76 here. So you'd be like, well, yeah, he's kind of slower on paper, but I projected a lot of improvement from this horse second out. So I didn't single him, did use him obviously. So anyway, he was one I actually thought about a little bit, but I thought, well, can he improve enough? That's always a question mark. If I really hated the first 4 races, this could have been one I landed on, but I ended up not doing it and singling Discreet Mischief. Now, so Discreet Mischief did win this race. Race 3, won it by like 12, or I don't know how much. It was a lot. But so that one came through. It was an unforced single. Now let's go to the next sequence here. Let me go down here to this. It was an all stakes pick 5. And so we'll go here. We'll start with, let me go down here to the 6th race. So back to Equibase. You look at it. All stakes pick 5. So grade 3 on the turf. I'm hardly ever going, or excuse me, this was a grade 3 on the dirt to start. Thought for a second, but once you kind of looked at it, they all look the same. Grade 2 Appalachian, 3-year-old fillies on the turf. No, thank you. I was not about to single there. The Madison was one I thought about for a little bit. I thought about the 6, thought about the 8, ended up, going 6, 8 and the 2. So went 3 deep there in that one as well. This was the one I was talking about. I really liked Arzak, picked Arzak to win, bet Arzak to win. I didn't think he could be a single. Sprinting on the turf is sometimes a mess. So Arzak does come in here. And then the Bluegrass. And, that was kind of the one that I thought all along would probably be my single. Let's get into why. So race 6 was the Commonwealth, like I said, and I hated this race with a passion, to be honest. I really didn't like any horse in this race. So that was a clear spread race for me. The Appalachian, like I said, another one, they all just kind of look the same. I just could not tell one apart from the other. So went deep there as well. And those were like very quickly. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to do anything with this. Like you got to go deep, right? You could tell. Now you got to dive into the handicapping. Okay, how long do I want to? How deep do I actually want to go? But I could tell within 2 seconds of looking at that race. I could tell by the entries. Now you might not be able to do that because you don't follow it every single day, every single track, like I have to for my job. But I could tell for the entries, I wasn't going to be able to do much with that race. So the Madison was one I really thought hard about. I liked Red Carpet Ready, and that's one of the reasons I didn't single. I respected that horse a lot. I didn't care for the rest of these until you get down to Alvastar. Really liked Alvastar a lot in the spot, and really liked Vava a lot. And I think if only one of those two would have entered, Alvastar or Vava, probably would have just tried to pick between the two and single. But Red Carpet Ready kept looming large for me. I projected this horse to improve second out as a 4-year-old. And that improvement really, to me, got her on that Alvastar Vava level. So just debated for a while and decided, you know what, I just don't think this is a race I want to mess with singling and then Vava or, Red Carpet Ready win. Or if I single Vava, Alvastar, and Red Carpet Ready win, and I'm going to be sitting there like, I could have got that horse easy. So I knew I had a strong opinion in the Bluegrass in my back pocket. So I said, we're going to play 3 horses here. We're just going to, I just basically said, look, I'm going to play all 3 of them. I don't want to get beat by any of them. Now, as it turns out, I could have singled Alvastar. That was my top pick, but didn't happen. Didn't work out. So that was the other race that I debated on a single there. Went to the Shaker Town and decided, no chance. I'm singling here. A lot of these horses could win. So let's go to a horse I did single, which was Sierra Leone in the Bluegrass. To me, and accurate or not, I just kept thinking this is a 2-horse race. I really did. I know BU was a horse that was kind of getting a little bit of love. I just didn't believe in the horse, mostly from experience of losing with this horse so many damn times, including when he finally won last time out and I'd given up on it. So I wasn't going to go back to BU. Caesar Gray, I never had a lot of interest in. Dornoch, obviously, you have some interest in. It's a rematch between Dornoch and Sierra Leone. I'll get to a minute why I ultimately just tossed Dornoch and singled Sierra Leone. But to me, it was between those two, Dornoch, Sierra Leone. Good money, never had any interest in. Just a touch. I really didn't have a lot of interest. He ran better than I thought he would, to be honest. I thought he had a solid performance there. He was the one that was scary. Lat Long didn't care. Epic Ride really didn't believe in. Believed in Encino, who scratched and won the Lexington. And then you get Encino scratched there. That's another one I had an interest in. And then you get Sierra Leone. So let's break it down. And this is where connections make a difference for me. You look at Sierra Leone 90 and a 91 in those last 2 races. And then you look at Dornoch, same thing, 90, 91, 90. So on the surface, very similar numbers. And for me, and look, this isn't really a knock on Danny Gargan at all. I want to be honest and clear about that. It's more praise of Chad Brown. I had full 1,000% faith that Sierra Leone would run a much better number than he had. And that's the long and short of it. And you might go, well, why? Because Chad Brown's horses in the Bluegrass always improve. I mean, over and over and over, we've seen it. I did not pick Sierra Leone in the Risen Star because I've seen Chad Brown horses before the Bluegrass not run all that well. Honestly, I don't think Sierra Leone ran all that well in the Risen Star and still won. So jumping up here, I knew he would take a jump up. And it was as simple as, look, I am 1,000% confident Sierra Leone will take a jump up because I've seen his trainer do it in this race specifically over and over and over and over. And I just haven't with Danny Gargan. And that's not a knock on Danny Gargan. I like him. I think he's a good trainer. I bet his horses. In this spot, Chad Brown made way, way more sense to me. So I looked at it like this. Am I going to single Chad Brown with a horse that I think is a very good horse, number one? I do think Sierra Leone's very good. Could win the Derby. In a spot where I've seen him win over and over and over and make his horses better over and over and over. Or am I going to lose, if I lose it and to Chad Brown versus if I lose to Danny Gargan? And I was like, I'll let Gargan beat me in this specific spot. And that's why I always kind of say there isn't an overarching comment you can make like that, right? If I'm in a different situation, I'm not going to let Danny Gargan beat me because I think, he's in a spot where he's going to excel. But it not necessarily that I didn't think he could excel in this spot. I didn't think he could excel at the rate that Chad Brown was going to. It's just how it is. I mean, I'm not trying to knock anybody. I'm just stating facts. Just go back and look what this guy's done in this race. Even when he loses, his horses run well. So anyway, took a shot there. This was more of like Discreet Mischief was like, to me, and again, this is just my opinion, it's a lock. Single him. Forget it. Move on. Don't even think about it. This one was, I would call it a little bit more of a forced single. I think in a perfect world, you'd love to have a little bit more coverage in a race like this. It is a 3-year-old prep race. Horses can, jump up and down at you at any time. So that's kind of the difference, right? I mean, you saw how I went through the first 5 races. It's like, yeah, Discreet Mischief, we'll build around him. This one was more of like, well, I could build around the Madison. I could, build around Sierra Leone. It's just kind of debatable, and you kind of just have to make a decision as that goes. So that's kind of 2 situations. I didn't want to make this an hour, so we're going to actually cut it. We'll go over the Lexington card maybe later, because I don't want to make this an hour. So 20 minutes, that's good enough, 25 minutes. It's kind of show you how I look at a card, where I'm trying to look for singles, kind of the things that I'm looking at as far as singling a horse. And you saw Discreet Mischief, huge standout. And again, in my opinion, yours could have been different, and yours could be right just as much as me, right? This is just one situation. Discreet Mischief is going to win by 10. Easy single, let's build around. Where here, it's like, okay, it's debatable, right? Like, I like Sierra Leone, but not as much as I like Discreet Mischief. So that's just kind of the differences there on finding singles. All right, that's going to do it for this week's Rockets Hits and Heartbreaks. We'll be back next week, of course. Who knows? Maybe we'll talk Lexington. We'll talk about that Lexington card. Maybe I'll come up with something else, see something else throughout the week that I want to cover. But all right, guys, thanks everybody for watching this week, and we'll see you next week.